St. Jude's Hospital stood tall in the heart of the city, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos of urban life. Its walls echoed with the sounds of bustling nurses, busy doctors, and the occasional cry of a patient. Among them was Nurse Emily Carter, a woman whose compassion shone brightly even on the darkest days. With her dark brown hair tied back in a neat bun and her scrubs slightly wrinkled from a long shift, she moved gracefully through the corridors, her heart filled with a mix of determination and sorrow. Emily had always dreamed of becoming a nurse. Growing up in a small town, she spent countless hours watching her father, a veterinarian, care for animals with love and dedication. He taught her that every life mattered, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. Those lessons shaped her into the nurse she was today, empathetic, hardworking, and fiercely protective of her patients. But behind her warm smile lay an ache that never seemed to fade. 2 years had passed since her father's sudden death, and the void he left behind felt insurmountable. The hospital was both a sanctuary and a reminder of her loss. Every day, she poured herself into her work, hoping that by helping others, she could somehow fill the emptiness inside her. As she entered the pediatric ward, Emily was greeted by the cheerful laughter of children playing with toys and their parents' gentle smiles. She loved this part of her job. The innocence and joy that radiated from these young patients lifted her spirits. Today was no different. She walked in to find little Mia, a 5-year-old girl with bright blue eyes and curly hair, giggling as she played with a stuffed bear. "Good morning, Mia," Emily said, kneeling beside her bed. "Good morning, Nurse Emily. Look at my bear. His name is Mr. Cuddles." Mia beamed. Emily chuckled softly. "Mr. Cuddles looks very brave today. Are you feeling brave too?" Mia nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, I want to go home soon." Emily's heart swelled with affection for the little girl. "You're doing so well, Mia. Just a little more time, and you'll be back home playing with Mr. Cuddles." As she checked Mia's vitals and chatted with her mother about the treatment plan, Emily felt a sense of purpose wash over her. These moments reminded her why she chose this path, to bring comfort to those in need and to honor her father's legacy by caring for others. The day progressed as Emily moved from room to room, tending to patients with various ailments. She listened intently to their stories, offered words of encouragement, and shared in their joys and sorrows. Each interaction brought back memories of her father, his gentle hands treating animals with care and his soothing voice reassuring frightened pets. But as evening approached, fatigue began to set in. Emily took a moment to sip some lukewarm coffee in the break room while glancing at the clock on the wall. Just then, an urgent commotion erupted from the emergency entrance. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the hallways, followed by shouts that sent ripples of anxiety through the staff. Curiosity piqued, Emily set down her cup and rushed toward the source of the noise. As she rounded the corner into the main lobby, what she saw took her breath away. A lion stood there, its golden mane shimmering under the harsh fluorescent lights. The majestic creature looked bewildered yet regal amidst the chaos surrounding it. Panic ensued as staff members scrambled to contain the situation. Some shouted for animal control while others tried to keep patients calm. But amidst all this turmoil, Emily felt something stir within her, a deep connection to this magnificent animal that mirrored her own struggles. As fear gripped everyone around her, Emily took a step forward. She remembered how her father would always say that understanding an animal's fear was key to helping it heal. With each heartbeat echoing in her chest, she knew she had to act, not just for the lion but for herself as well. The lion's eyes met hers for a fleeting moment, a gaze filled with confusion and vulnerability, and in that instant, Emily felt an unspoken bond form between them. She took another step closer, determined to bridge the gap between fear and trust. Little did she know that this encounter would change everything. The chaos in the hospital lobby intensified as the lion paced back and forth, its powerful body tense and alert. Nurses and doctors shouted instructions, trying to maintain order while keeping patients safe. I could feel my heart racing, but there was something about the lion that drew me closer, almost as if it were calling out to me. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, my instincts kicking in. "Everyone, please stay calm," I called out, trying to project confidence despite the uncertainty swirling around me. "We need to give it space." As I approached the lion, I noticed its golden fur was matted with dirt and blood, evidence of a struggle. It looked frightened, its eyes wide as it scanned the room filled with unfamiliar faces. I remembered my father's words, animals sense fear. They need someone who understands them. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming urge to help, not just the lion but also myself. With cautious steps, I moved closer. The lion stopped pacing and turned its gaze toward me. My heart raced as our eyes locked. There was a raw vulnerability in those deep amber eyes that mirrored my own pain. I could see it wasn't just an animal in distress, it was a creature longing for safety and understanding. "Hey there," I whispered softly, trying to soothe it with my voice. "It's okay. You're safe here." My hands trembled slightly as I reached out, but I kept my movements slow and deliberate. The lion's breathing was heavy, and I could see its muscles tense as if ready to bolt at any moment. Just then, Drive Patel, the head of emergency medicine, rushed over. "Emily, what are you doing?" he exclaimed, his voice laced with concern. "I think I can calm it down," I replied, not taking my eyes off the lion. "We need to get it sedated so we can treat its injuries." "Doctor." Patel hesitated for a moment before nodding. "All right, but be careful. We can't afford any mistakes." I nodded in agreement, feeling a surge of determination wash over me. With Dr. Patel's guidance, we prepared a tranquilizer dart while other staff members created a perimeter around us to keep everyone safe. As we worked quickly but carefully, I continued speaking softly to the lion. "You're going to be okay," I assured it. "We're going to help you." The creature seemed to respond to my voice, its breathing slowed slightly as it focused on me. In those moments of connection, memories of my father flooded back, his gentle hands treating injured animals and his unwavering belief that every life mattered. He had always encouraged me to follow my heart and pursue what I loved. Now, standing before this magnificent beast, I felt his presence guiding me. Finally ready with the tranquilizer dart, Drive Patel signaled for me to step back slightly while he aimed carefully at the lion's flank. With a steady hand and a deep breath, he fired the dart. The tranquilizer struck true. Within moments, the lion's muscles relaxed, and it sank gently onto the floor. Relief washed over me as I knelt beside the magnificent creature, feeling an unexpected bond form between us, a shared understanding of pain and vulnerability. As the lion drifted into unconsciousness, I stroked its fur gently, whispering words of comfort. "Thank you for trusting me," I murmured softly. Once the lion was stable and being transported to an examination room by animal control experts who had finally arrived on scene, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment mixed with exhaustion wash over me. The adrenaline that had fueled me began to fade as reality settled in. Dr. Patel approached me with a look of admiration in his eyes. "You did well today, Emily," he said sincerely. "Not many would have had the courage to step forward like that." His praise warmed my heart but also reminded me of why I had acted so instinctively. The connection I felt was deeper than mere bravery, it was a reflection of my own struggles and desires for healing. As the commotion subsided and normalcy returned to St. Jude's Hospital, I found myself reflecting on what had just happened. The lion's presence had stirred something within me, a longing for connection not only with animals but also with my own emotions that I had buried since my father's passing. That night as I left work and stepped into the cool evening air, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this encounter was just the beginning of something profound, a journey toward healing that would intertwine my life with that of this majestic creature. The next morning, I arrived at St. Jude's Hospital with a sense of anticipation that was both thrilling and unnerving. The events of the previous day played over and over in my mind like a vivid dream. A lion in the hospital, my instinct to help, and the unexpected bond we had formed in those fleeting moments. As I walked through the familiar corridors, I felt a strange mix of hope and anxiety about what lay ahead. I headed straight to the animal care unit, where the lion had been taken for treatment. The room was filled with the sounds of beeping machines and the soft rustle of medical supplies. My heart raced as I approached the door, wondering how the lion was doing after its sedation and treatment. Would it remember me? Would it still feel that connection we shared? As I entered, I was met by Dr. Patel, who was reviewing the lion's medical chart. He looked up and smiled when he saw me. "Good morning, Emily. The lion is stable but still unconscious. We're monitoring its condition closely. Can I see it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," he replied, gesturing for me to follow him. We walked into the treatment area where the lion lay on a padded table, surrounded by medical equipment. Its breathing was steady, but it looked vulnerable in its unconscious state. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me as I approached the table. The lion's powerful body was now relaxed, its golden mane fanned out like a halo around its head. I reached out tentatively and brushed my fingers against its fur. It was soft and warm, a stark contrast to the wildness it had displayed just hours before. In that moment, I felt an overwhelming urge to protect this creature, a reflection of my own desire to heal from my past. Dr. Patel watched me closely. You have a unique connection with this animal, he noted. Not many people would feel such empathy toward a wild creature. It reminds me of my father, I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. He taught me to care for all living beings, to understand their pain. Dr. Patel nodded thoughtfully. Animals can teach us so much about ourselves if we're willing to listen. As I stood there, lost in thought, an idea began to form in my mind, a way to honor my father's legacy while also helping this lion heal. What if I could spend more time with it? What if I could learn more about its behavior and needs? Perhaps through caring for this lion, I could also find healing for myself. Dr. Patel, I said suddenly, turning to him with newfound determination. I want to help with its rehabilitation process. Can I stay here and assist with its care? He raised an eyebrow in surprise but then smiled warmly. I think that's a wonderful idea, Emily. Your compassion could make a significant difference in its recovery. With his approval, I began spending every spare moment in the animal care unit, learning everything I could about the lion's needs, its diet, behavior patterns, and how to interact with it safely once it regained consciousness. Each day brought new challenges and insights as I immersed myself in this unique experience. As days turned into weeks, the bond between us deepened. When the lion finally awakened from sedation, I was there by its side. It blinked slowly at first, then focused on me with those deep amber eyes that held both strength and vulnerability. My heart raced as it began to stir. Hey there, I whispered softly, feeling an overwhelming sense of connection wash over me once again. The lion let out a low rumble, a sound that could have been interpreted as a growl or perhaps a purr of contentment, as it shifted closer to me on the table. It seemed to recognize my presence and respond to my voice. Over time, we established a routine together. Each morning, I would arrive early to prepare its meals and clean its space while talking softly about my day or sharing stories about my father's work with animals. The lion listened intently, sometimes it would even tilt its head as if trying to understand every word. I named him Leo, a name that felt fitting for such a majestic creature, and each time I called him by name, it felt like an affirmation of our growing bond. As Leo began to regain strength and mobility, we started incorporating gentle exercises into his routine, simple movements designed to help him regain his physical health. One afternoon, as we practiced walking together in a safe enclosure designed for rehabilitation, Leo took his first tentative steps toward me without hesitation. My heart swelled with pride as he moved closer. It felt like a victory not just for him but for both of us. In those moments spent together, learning from each other, I began to heal too. The pain of losing my father slowly transformed into gratitude for the lessons he had taught me about love and compassion. Caring for Leo became more than just an act of rehabilitation, it became a journey of self-discovery and healing. As Leo grew stronger each day, so did my resolve to embrace life fully again, something I hadn't dared to do since my father's passing. With every step Leo took toward recovery, I took one toward reclaiming joy in my own life. The days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, my bond with Leo deepened. I found joy in our daily routines, and the hospital felt less like a place of sorrow and more like a sanctuary of healing. I was no longer just a nurse, I was a caregiver, a friend, and in many ways, a partner in Leo's recovery. One sunny afternoon, as I prepared his meal in the animal care unit, I noticed that Leo had become more alert and curious about his surroundings. He watched me closely as I chopped fresh meat, his amber eyes following my every movement. It was as if he were learning to trust me more each day, and that trust filled me with a sense of purpose. After feeding him, I decided it was time for another exercise session. I opened the door to the outdoor enclosure where Leo could stretch his legs and explore the fresh air. As he stepped outside, the sunlight caught his golden fur, making him look even more majestic. He paused for a moment, taking in the sights and sounds of the world beyond the confines of the hospital. Go on, Leo, I encouraged softly. It's all yours. With a gentle nudge from me, he took a few tentative steps forward. It was exhilarating to watch him move freely after weeks of rehabilitation. He sniffed at the grass and pawed at the ground as if rediscovering what it meant to be alive. My heart swelled with pride as I saw him embrace his newfound freedom. But just as I began to relax, an unexpected sound shattered the tranquility. A loud crash echoed from the nearby storage area. My heart raced as I turned toward the noise, instinctively feeling that something was wrong. Leo's ears perked up, and he froze in place, his body tense. Stay here, I whispered urgently, moving toward the source of the sound while keeping an eye on him. My mind raced with possibilities. Was it just equipment falling? Or something more serious? As I approached the storage area, I saw two maintenance workers struggling to lift a heavy crate that had toppled over. They were laughing nervously at their clumsiness, but their laughter quickly turned to panic when they realized Leo was nearby. Get back, there's a lion, one of them shouted. I rushed back to Leo's side just as he began to grow agitated at the commotion. His instincts kicked in, he let out a low growl that reverberated through the enclosure. Leo, it's okay. I called out desperately, trying to calm him down. In that moment of chaos, fear gripped my heart. What if he panicked? What if he saw them as a threat? I had worked so hard to build trust between us, I couldn't let this situation ruin everything we had accomplished together. Leo, I shouted again, maintaining eye contact with him. Focus on me. He turned his gaze toward me, and for a brief moment, our eyes locked. It was a reminder of all we had been through together, the healing process we had embarked on side by side. Slowly but surely, his growl subsided into a low rumble as he seemed to recognize my voice amidst the noise. I took a step closer to him and extended my hand through the enclosure bars. Come here, I urged gently. To my relief, Leo took a cautious step toward me. The workers had finally managed to upright the crate and were now backing away slowly, realizing they needed to give us space. As they retreated further into the distance, Leo relaxed slightly but remained alert. Good boy, I praised softly as he approached me closer than ever before. You're safe. The tension in my body began to ease as Leo settled beside me, leaning against my leg for reassurance. In that moment of vulnerability shared between us, I knew we had crossed another threshold in our relationship. He trusted me not only as his caregiver but also as his protector. After ensuring that everything was calm again and that Leo felt secure beside me, I took a deep breath and smiled down at him. You're getting stronger every day, I said softly. As we resumed our exercise routine later that afternoon, I couldn't help but reflect on how much Leo had taught me about resilience and trust. Just like him, I too had faced moments of fear and uncertainty since my father's death, yet here we were, two souls finding strength in each other amidst life's unpredictability. That evening after my shift ended, as I sat quietly in my car before driving home, I thought about how far both Leo and I had come since our first encounter. We were both healing, him from physical injuries and me from emotional scars, and it felt like we were on parallel journeys toward recovery. As night fell over the city and stars began to twinkle above me, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for this experience, the unexpected bond formed through shared struggles, and for the lessons learned along the way. The sun rose over St. Jude's Hospital, casting a warm glow through the windows of the animal care unit. I arrived early, my heart filled with excitement and a hint of nervousness. Today was a significant day. Leo was scheduled for a follow-up examination to assess his recovery progress. I had been eagerly awaiting this moment, but as I prepared for the day ahead, I couldn't shake the feeling of uncertainty that lingered in the back of my mind. After feeding Leo his breakfast, I spent some time with him in the enclosure. He seemed to be in high spirits, playfully batting at a toy I had brought for him, a simple ball that rolled across the floor. Watching him engage with it brought a smile to my face. It was a reminder of how far he had come since that chaotic day when he first entered the hospital. As I sat on the floor beside him, I reflected on our journey together. Leo had transformed from a frightened animal into a vibrant creature full of life and energy. But as much as he had healed physically, I knew there was still work to be done emotionally. Trust was a delicate thread we were weaving together, and today's examination would be a crucial step in solidifying that bond. Dr. Patel entered the room, clipboard in hand, and greeted us with a warm smile. Good morning, Emily. "And good morning to you, Leo," he said cheerfully. "Good morning," I replied, feeling a rush of anticipation. "I'm excited to see how he's doing." Dr. Patel began his examination, checking Leo's vital signs and assessing his overall health. As he worked, I stayed close by, speaking softly to Leo and offering gentle encouragement. "You're doing great, buddy," I whispered as Dr. Patel examined his legs and paws. But as the examination progressed, I noticed Leo becoming increasingly restless. His ears twitched at every sound outside the room, and his tail flicked back and forth nervously. It was clear that he was feeling anxious about being handled again after weeks of rehabilitation. "Hey there," I said soothingly, moving closer to him. "It's okay, you're safe with us." Dr. Patel paused and looked at me thoughtfully. "It's important that we don't push him too hard right now," he advised gently. "We want him to feel comfortable and secure during this process." I nodded in agreement, understanding the delicate balance we needed to maintain between assessment and comfort. "Let's take it slow," I suggested. Dr. Patel smiled appreciatively at my insight. "That's exactly right." As we continued with the examination at a slower pace, Leo seemed to relax slightly under my soothing voice and gentle touch. However, just as we were nearing the end of the checkup, an unexpected sound echoed through the hallway, a loud crash followed by frantic voices. Leo's body tensed immediately, his instincts kicked in as he let out a low growl that resonated through the room. My heart raced as I realized this could trigger his anxiety again. "Leo," I called out urgently, trying to maintain eye contact with him amidst the chaos outside. "Focus on me." He looked at me with wide eyes filled with uncertainty and fear. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. I needed to reassure him that he was safe here with me. I knelt down beside him and gently placed my hand on his powerful shoulder. "You're okay," I whispered firmly yet softly. "I'm right here." Dr. Patel stepped back slightly to give us space while keeping an eye on Leo's reaction. Slowly but surely, Leo's growl faded into silence as he turned his attention back to me. "Good boy," I praised gently as he leaned into my touch, seeking comfort in my presence. Once the noise subsided and calm returned to the unit, Drive. Patel resumed his examination without further incident. When it was finally over, he looked at me with admiration in his eyes. "You handled that beautifully," he said sincerely. "It takes great skill to manage an animal's emotions during stressful situations." I felt warmth spread through me at his compliment but also realized how much Leo had taught me about trust, how important it was for both of us to remain grounded during moments of uncertainty. As we wrapped up for the day and prepared for Leo's continued rehabilitation program, I couldn't help but reflect on how our relationship had evolved through these challenges. Each obstacle we faced together only strengthened our bond. We were learning from each other in ways I never could have anticipated. That evening as I drove home under a sky painted with hues of orange and pink from the setting sun, my heart felt lighter than it had in years. The connection between Leo and me was more than just caregiver and patient. It was a partnership forged through shared experiences, one where both of us were healing together. The journey ahead would undoubtedly present more challenges, however, armed with newfound confidence from today's experience, I knew we could face anything together. The following days were filled with a sense of anticipation and excitement as Leo continued to regain his strength. Each morning, I arrived at the hospital eager to see how he was doing, and every afternoon brought new milestones in his rehabilitation. The bond we had forged was deepening, and I felt more connected to him than ever before. One particularly bright morning, I entered the animal care unit with a spring in my step. The sun streamed through the windows, illuminating the room and casting a warm glow over everything. I found Leo lounging in his enclosure, basking in the sunlight as if he were a house cat. His golden fur glistened, and for a moment, I simply stood there, marveling at how far he had come. "Good morning, Leo," I called out cheerfully as I approached him. He lifted his head and looked at me with those deep amber eyes that seemed to hold a universe of emotion. It was as if he recognized my voice and felt comforted by it. I spent some time playing with him, tossing a soft ball that he eagerly chased after. Watching him leap and pounce filled me with joy. He was becoming more playful and confident each day. But beneath that joy lay an underlying tension. Today was significant because Drive. Patel had informed me that we would begin introducing Leo to the larger outdoor enclosure, a crucial step toward his eventual release back into the wild. As I prepared for the transition, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and anxiety. Would Leo be ready for this? Would he feel overwhelmed by the new environment? I wanted so much for him to succeed, but the thought of him being outside without my protection made me uneasy. When Dr. Patel arrived, he could sense my apprehension. "Emily," he said gently, "it's natural to feel nervous about this next step. But remember, we've been preparing for this moment for weeks now. Leo has shown incredible progress." I nodded, trying to absorb his reassurance. "I know," I replied, taking a deep breath. "I just want to make sure he's ready." Dr. Patel smiled knowingly. "You've been an amazing advocate for him throughout this process. Trust your instincts, you know him better than anyone." With those words of encouragement echoing in my mind, we moved Leo into the larger outdoor enclosure designed specifically for rehabilitation. As we opened the gate, I felt a surge of excitement mixed with fear wash over me. "Here we go," I said softly to Leo as we stepped outside together. The moment he entered the enclosure, his demeanor changed instantly. He paused at the threshold, taking in the vastness of the space before him, the tall grass swaying gently. In the breeze, the sounds of birds chirping overhead, and the warm sun on his back. It was as if he were awakening from a long slumber. Leo took a tentative step forward, then another, exploring his new surroundings with cautious curiosity. My heart raced as I watched him sniff at everything, the grass, the trees, even the air itself, as if he were rediscovering what it meant to be alive outside of four walls. "Look at you," I exclaimed softly, unable to contain my excitement. "You're doing it." As he ventured further into the enclosure, I felt a swell of pride mixed with bittersweet emotions. This was what we had worked so hard for, his freedom, but it also meant letting go of the control I had over his safety. Suddenly, Leo paused and turned back to look at me. His expression was one of uncertainty. It was clear that while he was exploring this new world, he still sought reassurance from me. I knelt down and opened my arms wide. "Come here, buddy," I called out gently. To my relief, Leo bounded back toward me and nuzzled against my side, a gesture that reminded me how far we had come together. In that moment of connection, all my fears melted away. It was clear that despite this new environment, our bond remained unbreakable. As the hours passed, we spent time together in the enclosure, playing games and practicing commands while allowing Leo to explore at his own pace. Each moment felt precious, every leap and bound filled me with hope for his future. But just as everything seemed perfect, an unexpected sound shattered our peaceful afternoon. A loud clang echoed from nearby construction work outside the hospital grounds. Instantly, Leo froze in place, his body tensed as he scanned the area for danger. Panic surged through me as I realized this could trigger an instinctual flight response in him. "Leo," I called out urgently while keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Focus on me." He turned toward me again, those amber eyes filled with uncertainty once more. This was a pivotal moment. Would he trust me enough to remain calm? I took a deep breath and stepped closer to him, maintaining eye contact as best as I could while keeping my tone soothing yet firm. "You're okay," I reassured him softly. "You're safe here with me." Slowly but surely, Leo began to relax again, his growl faded into silence as he leaned against me for comfort once more. After a few moments passed and the noise subsided into silence again, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over us both. He had chosen to trust me even when faced with fear. As evening approached and we wrapped up our time in the enclosure, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come together, not just in terms of physical healing but also emotional growth. Leo had shown remarkable resilience through every challenge thrown our way, each obstacle only served to strengthen our bond further. Driving home that night under a blanket of stars twinkling above me felt different than before. There was hope on the horizon not just for Leo but also for myself as well. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions and experiences as Leo continued to adjust to his new outdoor enclosure. Each morning, I arrived at the hospital with a sense of excitement and purpose, eager to see how he was progressing. The bond we had formed felt stronger than ever, but I knew that the journey ahead would not be without its challenges. One afternoon, as I prepared for our daily routine, I noticed that Leo was more restless than usual. He paced back and forth in the enclosure, occasionally stopping to sniff the air as if he sensed something beyond the fence. I could feel my own anxiety rising, I wanted to ensure that he felt secure and safe, especially after everything we had been through together. "Hey there, big guy," I said softly as I approached him. "What's got you all worked up today?" Leo paused and looked at me, his amber eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and unease. It was clear that something was bothering him, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I decided to take a step back and observe him closely. As I watched, I realized that Leo seemed particularly interested in the sounds coming from outside the enclosure, loud machinery and voices from the construction site nearby. It dawned on me that this noise might be triggering his instincts, reminding him of the wild and the potential dangers that lurked beyond our safe space. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm for both our sakes. "Let's take a break from all this noise," I suggested, leading him toward a quieter corner of the enclosure where tall grass swayed gently in the breeze. "How about we relax here for a bit?" As we settled down in the shade of a large tree, Leo seemed to respond positively. He lay down beside me, resting his head on my lap as I gently stroked his fur. In these quiet moments, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude for our connection, a bond forged through trust and understanding. But just as I began to relax, another loud crash echoed from the construction site. Leo's body tensed instantly, he jumped up and growled softly, clearly agitated by the noise. My heart raced as I realized this could be a turning point for him, a moment where he could either retreat into fear or choose to trust me once again. "Leo," I called out firmly but gently, maintaining eye contact with him. "Focus on me." He turned his gaze toward me, those deep amber eyes filled with uncertainty once more. "You're safe here," I reassured him softly, my voice steady despite my own rising anxiety. Slowly but surely, Leo began to calm down again, his growl faded into silence as he leaned against me for comfort once more. It was a pivotal moment, a reminder of how far we had come together and how much we still needed each other. After several minutes passed without any further disturbances, Leo finally settled down beside me again. As he relaxed against my side, I couldn't help but reflect on how much he had taught me about resilience and trust. In those moments of vulnerability shared between us, it became clear that healing was not just about physical recovery, it was also about emotional growth, learning to navigate fears together while finding strength in one another. As days turned into weeks, we continued our routine of exercises and playtime in the enclosure while gradually introducing new stimuli, different sounds and scents, to help Leo acclimate to life outside the hospital walls. But despite our progress, there lingered an underlying tension within me. The thought of Leo eventually being released into the wild filled me with both excitement and dread. Would he thrive out there? Would he remember everything we had shared? One evening after my shift ended, I sat in my car parked outside the hospital, staring at the horizon painted with shades of orange and pink from the setting sun. The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on my heart as I grappled with conflicting emotions about Leo's future. Just then, my phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Patel. "Let's discuss Leo's progress tomorrow morning. We need to start planning for his release." I felt a knot form in my stomach at those words. Planning for his release meant confronting all my fears head-on. What if he didn't want to leave? What if he struggled out there on his own? That night was restless, sleep eluded me as thoughts swirled in my mind like leaves caught in a whirlwind. Every moment spent with Leo had been transformative for both of us, healing wounds that ran deep within my soul, but now it felt like everything was coming to a head. The next morning arrived too quickly. I walked into St. Jude's Hospital with heavy footsteps but determined resolve. As I entered the animal care unit, Drive, Patel greeted me with an encouraging smile. "Good morning. Are you ready to talk about Leo?" he asked. I nodded slowly, feeling a mix of apprehension and anticipation bubbling inside me. "Yes," I replied quietly. As we sat down together to discuss Leo's future, his rehabilitation progress and what life would look like once he returned to his natural habitat, I realized that this conversation would be pivotal not only for Leo but also for me. It was time to face my fears and embrace change, both for myself and for this magnificent creature who had become such an integral part of my life. The morning sun filtered through the windows of the animal care unit, casting a golden hue over everything. I arrived at St. Jude's Hospital with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Today was the day we would discuss Leo's future, and I could feel the weight of that decision pressing heavily on my heart. Dr. Patel was already in the unit when I walked in, reviewing Leo's chart. He looked up and smiled, sensing my nerves. "Good morning, Emily. Are you ready to talk about Leo?" I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. "Yes, I think so." We moved to a quiet corner of the room where we could talk without distraction. As I sat down across from Dr. Patel, I felt a surge of emotions, fear, hope, and a deep sense of gratitude for everything Leo had taught me. "First, let's talk about his progress, drive," Patel began, his tone reassuring. "Leo has shown remarkable improvement over the past few weeks. He's regained strength and confidence, and his behavior indicates that he's ready for the next step." I listened intently as he detailed Leo's physical health. His weight was stable, his muscle tone was strong, and he had adapted well to the various stimuli we had introduced in the enclosure. But as he spoke, my mind drifted to the thought of letting him go. Would he be okay out there? Would he remember me? "Emily, drive," Patel said gently, pulling me back to the conversation. "I know this is difficult for you. It's natural to feel apprehensive about his release. I want him to thrive," I admitted, my voice trembling slightly. "He means so much to me." Dr. Patel nodded understandingly. "And he means a lot to you because you've invested so much time and love into his rehabilitation. But remember, this is what he was born for. Being in the wild is where he truly belongs." His words resonated deeply within me. I had spent countless hours caring for Leo, nurturing him back to health, but now it was time for him to reclaim his life as a lion, a life that involved freedom and instinct. "We can start with a gradual release, drive," Patel suggested. "We'll monitor him closely during the transition and provide support as needed." As we discussed the logistics of his release, how we would acclimate him to his new environment while ensuring his safety, I felt a sense of purpose wash over me. This wasn't just about saying goodbye, it was about giving Leo the chance to live fully as he was meant to. Later that day, after our meeting ended, I made my way back to Leo's enclosure with a mix of determination and sadness swirling inside me. When I entered the space where he had spent so many days with me, I found him lounging in the sun again, looking regal and at ease. "Hey there," I said softly as I approached him. He lifted his head and gazed at me with those familiar amber eyes that held so much wisdom and emotion. I knelt beside him and gently stroked his fur, feeling an overwhelming wave of love wash over me. "You're going to be free soon," I whispered, fighting back tears. "It's what you deserve." Leo leaned into my touch as if sensing my mixed emotions. In that moment, I realized that our bond would never truly break. It would simply evolve into something new, a connection rooted in love and respect for each other's journeys. Over the next few days, we prepared for Leo's release with careful planning and consideration. We set up a larger outdoor area nearby where he could acclimate gradually before being introduced back into the wild. On the day of his release, a bittersweet feeling enveloped me as I stood outside watching him explore his new space, the tall grass swaying gently in the breeze, trees providing shade under which he could rest. As Leo moved confidently through this new environment, sniffing around and taking in every sound and scent, I felt both pride and heartache swell within me. This was what we had worked toward together, this was his moment. Dr. Patel joined me outside as we observed Leo from a distance. "He looks amazing," I said softly, unable to take my eyes off him. "He does, drive," Patel agreed with a smile. "You've done an incredible job with him." I turned to Dr. Patel, gratitude filling my heart for all the support he had provided throughout this journey. "Thank you for believing in both of us," I said sincerely. As evening approached and the sun began to set behind the horizon in brilliant shades of orange and pink, it felt like a perfect ending, a moment of closure not just for Leo but also for me. I walked over to him one last time before leaving for the day. Kneeling down beside him, I whispered softly into his ear, "You're going to be okay out there. You're strong and brave, just like my dad always said." With one final stroke of his fur, I stood up slowly and took a step back. As Leo turned to face me one last time, our eyes met in an unspoken promise, a promise that our bond would endure no matter where life took us. With tears streaming down my cheeks but a smile on my face, I walked away from the enclosure knowing that this was not just an end but also a beautiful beginning, for both Leo and myself.